Time for the first mailbag of Season 5. Lots of questions today. Let's dive right in. Zactastrophe asks, I possibly need to cut off one of my players from my table. He views, but never responds to scheduling in the group chat, and when messaged directly about wanting to continue playing in general, I don't even get a response. Should I keep trying, or just write him off? A frustrating situation as DM. A classic one, but no less frustrating. We've all had players drop out for various reasons. Sometimes schedules just get busy. Sometimes the game didn't match what they thought it would be. Luckily, due to the popularity of D&D, we don't have dropouts anymore so much in regards to the stigma. What it might do to their popularity or their dating if somebody figured out they were playing D&D on the side. But you just have a player that isn't answering the questions, is not responding if they're available. Their commitment seems overwhelmingly low. Thinking about that player's personality, are they the type to avoid committing to a group effort unless the group is already there? Because there are those people. Your friend here may not actually be villainously avoiding your texts. They just don't want to show up to a game with just two people. If I was player and I showed up to a D&D game and it was just me and one other player rather than the 6 that are normally there, I'd think that was awesome. I get all the DM's time. We get to do a side adventure. I'm going to get loot and gold and levels that they don't get. What an awesome opportunity to be more powerful than everyone else. To establish my character more, to explore the world, explore what I want to do. But some people just don't want to say yes to something before they know it's going to happen. They don't want to show up to an unattended party. So the final trial I would give your player here is the message that everyone else is in agreement that we are meeting X day. Will you be there? Get everybody else on board for the game, and then send them that final note asking for their attendance. Now, if you really like this person, you really like hanging out with them, you like what they bring to the table, you don't have to destroy their character. And certainly, anybody who has to remove a player shouldn't make a great act of vengeance upon that player. It can seem fun to have that player fall to evil, to join the bad guy's side, and now they're your NPC and you play them and you have them show up again. But what you create is an animosity in the fantasy group and in the real life group. Not only was everything made harder by them leaving, maybe they were an important role like a tank or a healer of some kind. Maybe they cast a lot of control spells. Maybe they were the top damage person. And now the group feels robbed of some of its throughput. But now the group also perceives that they're having a fight with this evil NPC that didn't have to happen. That's going to wear them down. That could have been replaced by something more important. You also don't want to just kill them outright. That can seem like you have all the animosity, that the DM is vengeful that this player could leave the group, how dare they? So we're going to murder their character. So in all honesty, when we talk about writing them out, it's best if they just sort of disappear. If they just leave. Maybe they do something peaceful, they hang up their hat. Maybe they'll return one day. Could you use their backstory to help inform your world? Maybe they had a thing where their village was attacked by bandits. Well, those bandits have returned, and that player needs to go home, needs to leave. It's tough not having closure for the seeds you may have planted along the way for that player. But just let them go. On a side note, if you're out there and you're having trouble balancing your games because you never know if players are going to show up the day of, I suggest you use Cobalt Fight Club. It's a website, cobalt.club, and this is an encounter builder. Personally, I find it a lot cleaner than the D&D Beyond encounter builder, which has a lot of fluff in it. Here you can make your encounters on the fly, remove monsters, and make that fight easier if someone chooses not to show up for the day. Guru asks, how many missed sessions is too many? I have a player that has missed quite a few, and it's starting to slow down the story. If you're meeting once a week, 4 to 6 sessions. A solid month of misplay is going to be missed levels and missed parts of that story. And it sounds like you're trying to hold back the story for that player. and things need to move on. Now, it's a personal feeling, and that's a rather arbitrary number, but when a player misses a month of sessions, they are falling behind, they are losing their place, and they're not going to be able to participate on the same level as the other players. We'll have to spend too much time catching them up. And the statement missed sessions here makes me think that they are just straight up not in attendance with no reason given. If a player goes on a month-long trip, of course they're going to miss sessions. We're not too concerned about that, and the story can take account for that. But when they're simply not showing up, that's a different issue. The big parental move you're pulling is the kid in the department store. Now, as a parent, I don't agree with this, but it was done to me and just about everyone I know in my generation. You didn't want to leave a place, so your parents said, "We're leaving without you." And then the kid comes crying, no, I want to go home, don't leave me, kind of thing going on. We're doing that with XP. We are saying you are missing sessions and the players are out-leveling you. You are going to be underpowered if you don't start attending. And you don't even have to say those words. Just the fact that when they do eventually show up and they see everyone around them as a higher level with magic items, more gold and what have you, they're going to feel the energy to attend more. And of course, you're going to catch them up. You're not a monster. You don't want them to be underpowered. Heck, you want to use really cool, awesome, high-level monsters. So you milestone them behind the other players and make sure that they catch up in time, reaffirming their commitment to the group after all. This is also totally different than the player who makes every game they can. That's kind of our Gandalf place. They're an awesome person, but they're busy. And they make every other game, every third game. They joined Shakespeare in the Park, and it rehearses every Saturday during your time for the next 2 months. But sometimes they get out early and can make it a little bit. That we would not stress. That player is already trying their hardest to be there every time they can. We can make that player busy, like Gandalf. They keep going places and coming back when they have time. Or if we're in a situation where the player couldn't actually be excused, like the middle of a dungeon, a very long dungeon that's taking multiple sessions, maybe they become cursed with narcolepsy or some sort of time ailment, and they stop existing. They stop being able to participate for periods of time. But in that case, you as DM and the group are acknowledging the commitment of this player, and everyone's pretty darn on board for being slightly burdened by their absence. Miss sessions, though, without a legitimate commitment to make the future sessions, move on without them. I really start feeling this around 2 weeks, but at that 6-week mark, I've kind of reached my peak as to how much I can accommodate for this player. Guru has a secondary question. At what point do you start debuffing monsters? My characters haven't been rolling very well on HP rolls, and I'm afraid that the Tomb of the Nine Gods in the Tomb of Annihilation is going to kill them all. This is the first time any of them have played, and I don't want it to be a bad end. With a pre-made adventure, I'd say buff your characters rather than debuff the monsters. Debuffing monsters is something you do on the fly. Planning it ahead is very time-consuming, but on the fly you might fudge a crit into a regular hit, or change tactics. Stop your spellcaster from using spells, and go over to their melee dagger attacks instead. Recharge your breaths less on your dragon boss fight. Before a big dungeon, you could have either the quest giver or an interested party give them an amulet of health. This increases the constitution score to 19 while they wear the amulet. One of my favorite things to give my players, if I think I might be going a little too hard, particularly in the early levels, I give them an amulet that breaks if they were to die. Sets them to half HP, but the amulet is gone. Potions are tough because players don't want to use their actions and their various economies to manage potions. Instead of giving out potions, place fountains with set amount of hit points in the dungeon. And you can talk about this in game terms. This fountain here has 100 hit points. So you drink some, I drink some, they drink some, and we can all divvy that up and get healed up to continue the adventure. You could also have this be a pool that the players wade into and are healed, or a sunbeam coming through the cracks, but as the hit points are used, that sunbeam dissipates, or the pool turns muddy and corrupted, removing these ailments from the players. The great thing about pre-made adventures is that people have shared experiences. Your players, after it's over, can go online and see various playthroughs through YouTube, or read about on posts how other parties dealt with things. The players won't remember what you did to buff them heading into the dungeon. They may even respect it if they kind of figure it out. But what they will quickly realize is if something doesn't match up, if a fight was missing a certain monster, or something was less deadly than everyone is talking about online. So you're in a unique situation here, using a pre-made system. Brondo asks, a couple of my players are trying their hand at DMing. They have both said that they have planned one-shots that if we all like, will make it into campaigns so we don't have to reroll characters. Do you have any advice for them? Do's and don'ts, and easy ways to branch out, etc. In a one-shot, there's always going to be some loose ends. The easiest thing to do to advance into a campaign is just leave yourself some loose ends. And as I've said before, all one-shots should just be the start of campaigns if people are interested. One thing you have to be careful about is to not over-establish your world in the one-shot. For instance, you defeat the boss, and in their pocket is a black onyx key. That could be anything. That could go to anything. A quest giver could say, that's the key to the mountain tomb. Or they could say, that's the key to the underwater palace. Whatever you want to do when you eventually get to that next part is what that key can be a part of. And in that way, I would make sure that your quest for your one-shot is given by a quest giver, a guild, an organization, an individual with some clout that can issue additional quests. One-shots will stay one-shots when it's extremely personal to the characters. A lot of campaigns start with a village coming under attack by goblins, let's say. In the heat of the moment, individuals rise to defend their town. Then there's a town meeting. The mayor agrees that these people, these heroes, should be the ones to investigate what happened to their sister town, and the quest is on, the campaign is on, and they're hitting the road. Very, very classic, something I've pulled many times. This is fine for a campaign start. But when you're doing a one-shot into campaign, that personal story has to have closure. We have to defeat the Goblin Lord that started that attack. And then you get into this really messy middle ground where the town mayor then holds the meeting and says, there must be other dangers in the world. Did our sister town become under attack by a different goblin tribe? You completed that mission, that story, it's done. So there just needs to be something at the end of the one shot. Smoke on the horizon, a messenger arrives from that sister town. Something has to happen at the end of the one shot that suggests greater adventure. Otherwise, your campaign kickoff is going to be stale and forced. And that's not fair to the DM because writing a one-shot is extremely difficult. Campaigns give you so much wiggle room, so much time to experiment. One-shots have to impress. That's not fair to the DM, but that's the way it is. Anar asks, I'm running Lost Mines of Pandelver that I got with my starter set, but with new characters that the players got to create in Session 0. We're starting to get far enough in the campaign that the characters are getting more developed, and I'm thinking about creating subplots specifically for them. My question is how best to incorporate this into the campaign that's already set. I've already taken a few liberties with the guilds and a few characters in the campaign, and although I don't mind changing things to better fit, I don't think I'm ready for them to step off the set path just yet. Do you have any tips for adding story to engage the players without sidetracking them too much? Also, should I try having a subplot for all characters, or just slowly one by one? The best way to do subplots is one by one, and there's nothing wrong with saying, player, this is your episode. In fact, middle of campaign, it's really nice to have set player episodes. And you could even say at the end of the campaign that we're going to be doing so-and-so's adventure next time. But it's very small, and you're making edits on the fly. They spend too much time questioning the noblemen at the start for their subplot. That's their time spent. We're going to cut down on the dungeon you were planning and get straight to the boss fight. They don't want to talk to noblemen. We can embellish that dungeon and that boss fight. The worst thing you can do with player-specific subplots and episodes is let them become too much. You're basically planning small one-shots, and that player being the leader for this episode, it's their story. They're going to do the talking. Even though you may have that bard with all the diplomacy, it's their time to be in front. And if they decide they want to talk instead of fight, that's what you're doing today. And there's plenty of room for this on the Lost Mines map. Just pick positions somewhere in there. Maps, after all, in a fantasy adventure, don't have everything on them. So just add a little X for the players about where they're going. Place it in your world. Make it a real place. This is even cooler if you've had those off-limit places. Areas of the forest that have been too dangerous for them in the past. Maybe they receive a letter or an invite to this particular new place, coaxing them through those woods that were dangerous. If you want to have a subplot for all players, then let's have a set reward on the other side of that. So they're invited to a place on the map, it becomes a danger, a mission, an adventure. They all get their first +1 weapon out of that. It's a very easy way to make sure everybody's balanced and rewarded, and I encourage you to check out Season 2, Episode 4, Loot, for some ideas about what sort of power spikes in loot you can give at different levels, and you can incorporate that loot giving into a subplot for your players. And Cooper asks our final question. Recently, my husband and I have been playing more spellcasters. It has been brought to attention that there is a set of rules that I can't find sources to or reasoning for. Normally in combat, it's a verbal rule that a d20 roll tie with AC goes to the attacker. But when it comes to the DC save on a spell, it doesn't go to the attacker. Wouldn't the DC spell save be seen as a spell casting AC? So shouldn't the tie go to the attacker? You're right that this can seem like an inconsistency. In previous editions, I really like saying glancing blow when a player exactly hit the AC or the fort or other types of saves we had at that time. My players, while they missed, would now feel rewarded that they hit the exact number because now they know that number. So they could use different spells. They could attack in different ways to get advantages. Change their tactics, now rewarded with that number in mind. But in 5th edition, they made a choice for the tie to hit. And it seems like on the attack versus AC side of things, that's to reward the players. They're the heroes, they should be the ones winning most of the time. The DM should lose in that case. But the DM's attacks, also matching AC, hit the players. So it doesn't really matter here who's rolling the dice, it's just that it's a match. There is no real advantage to the players, unless of course we're assuming the rounded down damage of having damage, because that's kind of nice. But you can find this information on page 7 of the player's handbook. If the total equals or exceeds the target's number, the ability check, attack roll, or saving throw is a success. Otherwise, it's a failure. So we do match or exceed. All types of saves and spells would be under that ability check, saving throws kind of area. And as I end this episode, I want to give a shout out to the FergHerd Discord. You can join it over at kylefergusson.com. You can find therein the DM Gives Inspiration tab. Everyone who posts their questions here got answers way faster from the community than this episode can allow. And I want to thank, in particular, Lord Commander for supplying the answer to this last question and helping Cooper here shore up their argument with their husband in a timely fashion. And thank you to everyone else for their emails and messages that became this episode. There's going to be another mailbag on episode 10, so look forward to that. Keep shooting those messages over at kylefergusson.com using the contact link, or post them in that Discord I just talked about. Music was by Brian Griffith, and I'll see you next week with more DM Gives Inspiration.